One of the things you learn, about doing this royal job is really sort of insights to senior members of the British monarchy. You kind of get to know their foibles, as they do yours, particularly if you're getting fed up of waiting. I've been in quite a few queues, one can imagine, at Windsor Castle and at Buckingham Palace. And some of the people realise that actually, if you've been up early, you might not fancy standing that long. That's why I never really believed this particular story about our late and wonderful monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. As we know, Her Majesty the Queen reigned for over 70 years, but one of the things that she really possessed was this sort of almost computer memory bank. She could remember every single thing, every single person. Now, a lot of people obviously don't realize that she was briefed before meeting people, but she did have a good recollection. She knew she'd met you before, more or less where she'd met you before, that sort of stuff. So this particular story, as ever, has always kind of enthralled me as to suddenly how her late and wonderful monarch had such a huge memory lapse over such an important discussion. Let me explain. Hi, good morning. Neil Sean here. Nice to see you as ever. Thank you so much. Nice to have your company. By the way, glad you all agree with me about having to check things. What day is it? Where are you? What planet are we on? I know. You see, I knew we were the same. You can just sense it, can't you? But as I said to you before, it's about speed, isn't it? The way everybody's pushing you through. And every day now is not as identifiable because nothing. Do you remember Sundays when there were no shops open, particularly over here in the United Kingdom? It was almost unheard of, really, to have any shop. Everything's now 24/7. Glad to know, though, as I say, that I'm not alone in this. Start to think you're going potty, don't you? Back and seven to your breaking roll story of the day. As I say, this story really fascinated me, particularly at the time of it, because I was literally just sort of starting out into the world of journalism, and you kind of wonder how all this operates. It really is all about. And when you think about it, as I just must point out also, we've got a brand new play popping up in the West End, all about another former royal servant who did keep counsel, but seemingly his story is now being turned into something a little bit more salacious. Stairs Billy was, of course, the confidant and the dedicated royal servant to our late and wonderful Queen Mother. And the Queen Mother really was quite a feisty lady, let me tell you. But this story really all centres upon Princess Diana's rock. That's right, Paul Burrell. Remember him, the self-styled rock that apparently she couldn't do without. And what's interesting here, recently, earlier this year, at the publication of his autobiography, Spare, Prince Harry didn't really hold back and basically said he couldn't stand him. A lot of people inside royal circles don't like Mr. Burrell. I literally have to be impartial and tell you, I've met him on a couple of occasions and he's always been polite and effervescent, I would say, to me. But what's interesting now is that that particular company that Harry and Meghan work for, Netflix, seeing the demise of the crown, are looking at things like big pivotal moments in history. And they're looking at that particular episode, the episode where Mr. Burrell basically was facing something of a huge dilemma, which could have had catastrophic results for him. But more importantly, at the 11th hour, and as he pointed out, our late and wonderful monarch suddenly remembered that in fact she'd enjoyed a conversation with him about certain items, artifacts, clothing, all of that sort of stuff he allegedly was allowed to take privately off to his own residence. You get the picture. Now, as I say, this looks like becoming a new drama for Netflix. It's in the very early stages. Who would play Paul Burrell? Who would play Princess Diana? That would be an easy casting. They've had quite a few. But the bottom line is there no end to this particular company delving into the royal alleged scandals of our British monarchy. And more importantly, when you think about it in the bigger picture, they've obviously got to keep this coming. But really, how embarrassing is this for Prince Harry? We know his thoughts on this particular subject and that particular area of his life. But seemingly his bosses, Netflix, don't care. What would it take to make him and Meghan Markle simply walk away from this huge debacle? Seemingly only the end of their own contract. It is a developing story, and as ever, when I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.